Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Crypto Hour. Today, it's something that I will not be saying very, very often, but I am talk to you from a sweltering London, where we are expected to hit the hottest day of the year, probably somewhere just short of 40 degrees, which is highly unusual for London. So we're beating all records for June high temperatures, and we try and keep cool as much as we can. So there's a lot to cover today. As you might have noticed, there's been kind of like quite a lot happening in the markets, and we will be trying to cover the kind of the reason for these different moves and the flash crash that we have seen, not just in the crypto market but also in the technology technology shares, and kind of like the change in momentum and what is happening as well in Europe with the new MiCA legislation coming into place. So let's unpack everything one thing at a time. Let me start from sharing my screen. You confirm that you can see my screen? Can you give me a thumbs up? Something?
Yep, all good.
Fantastic. Okay, so the kind of the main one of the main drivers of this week's price drops have been where are we? Have been kind of like the inflation figures, and you can see from yesterday. We had the PCE price index, which is the favorite inflation figure that used by the Fed, confirmed at a very uncomfortable level. So here we only got the month-on-month increase of 0.3%, but on a yearly basis, let me maybe see over here. Yesterday. So on the yearly basis, let's go and find it, quote unquote. Year on year, we are now at like a 3.4%, which is this is for the core item, but the general inflation figure, the price index is at 4.1%. Now it's much higher than the Fed guide of 2 to 2.5%, and so. Again, so it was 3.8 last month, so it's gone up again as expected this month to 4.1%. What does that mean? It means that there is pressure on the Fed to control inflation now. So how do they control inflation? By rising interest rates. They already, although at the last meeting they kept interest rates the same, they were talking that potentially there is at least one interest rate rise expected in 2026. And this is where the market actually had to hit the brakes and kind of reverse and change what was expected, and that has caused a little bit of a sell-off in all types of risk assets. Obviously, crypto is a risk asset as well, so has been affected by this, like like with everything else. And not only that, but yes, the inflation figures is one half of the picture. The other half is that we've had last week the first meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee, and that has confirmed the attitude of the new head of the Fed as being quite hawkish. So they're quite aggressive to control inflation, and so the two things combined are telling the markets that probably is going to be like a monetary tightening rather than easing as was expected, and this has caused the repricing of all type of risk assets. So if we want to have a look at the like what happened last week. So here we have the price of oil that have actually gone, as you can see, since we look to have stabilized now, with the peace around the corner between the USA and Iran. Oil has gone all the way down from the really high levels it hit up to a few weeks ago, over $100. We are now at levels that are like pre-war. Okay, so they're back to around the $73 mark as it was just before the war caused like a jump of more than 50% in the price of oil. So that has been, but obviously it's now the pressure is out of the economy, but obviously all these price increase that we've had for 3 months has to be digested, because it means that if you can see here from beginning of March till almost the end of June, means that producers have to pay much higher prices to produce the goods that we buy in the shops. So those goods that were produced over the last 3 months are hitting the shops now. So that inflation has to be digested again before it can start actually climbing down again. So now if we go and have a look at particular risk assets, like this is the Nasdaq. As you can see, this week we had a sharp sell-off. So we closed last week at about just short of 740, and the week opened at 715. So quite a drop before the mark was even open. Okay, a 3% drop. Since then we've gone excuse me. We've gone down even more. We have recovered some. We've gone down again. So we pretty much at now we're sitting pretty much where the market opened on Tuesday. Okay, so this is where we see the between Monday and Tuesday where the actual price drop hit. So it's been kind of like a red week. You see here from the weekly chart, almost like last week we were playing with almost like a new high, and this week instead we had a sharp sell-off from that level. So from expectation of hitting a new high, we've had dropped about 5.5%. At the moment we're sitting about 4% down on the week. And this is so this is the Nasdaq that includes obviously the majority of technology shares. Even the S&P 500, as you can see, has got a very similar play this week. So again, not as much as the Nasdaq, but it's still down 2%. It was down almost 3% at one point. But it does show. So if you see here the uncertainty of the market over this past few weeks. So even if the price hasn't really declined that much, you can see that 4 weeks they've got like a red marker, in the sense that the price was lower at the end of the week than it was at the beginning of the week. So it just indicates that the market is at the moment is quite unsettled, trying to make up its mind to reprice all these news that are coming in. They are coming thick and fast. The other thing to consider, so we'd see that, and we'll see in a second. We're going to have a look at how this has affected Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. Okay, but the other thing to consider as well is that what we've had, recently we had the SpaceX launch. Okay, I'll just put it on a daily chart so that you can see. Okay, you can see SpaceX launch was supposed to launch at 135. There was so much demand that it actually opened at 150. And in 3 days, it went all the way up to 225. Okay, which is like a, like a 50% increase. And then it dropped all the way back to the opening price. Okay, at the moment, it's sitting just above 150 or 153. But there was basically, when you think about this, absorbed a lot of liquidity in the market. And so there was a lot of sector rotation from other risk assets to, in particular, at the moment we're talking about SpaceX, So it's it's about rockets, it's about satellite internet, and many other things that the SpaceX does. But also around the corner we have the other IPOs that haven't happened yet of Anthropic and OpenAI. So the AI sector, in which we can include space and AI, has basically dried up a lot of funds that were available for other things. And so now there is a focus on AI and space exploration rather than other risk assets, and that including crypto. So it's been like kind of like a liquidity drain and sector rotation, because now this is the momentum, what is called the momentum play. Okay, so what people are investing now with the expectation of making a quick gain on their investment, like you see here in 3 days. I mean, suppose that people have cashed up here, people that have bought up 135 or 150, are cashed up over $200, and that's what price then has kind of retreated all the way back. And this is also a way for, but we were discussing this when SpaceX launched a couple of weeks ago, of not getting taken in by the excitement, of all the FOMO when the launch actually happens, because normally there are plenty of chances to buy again after the kind of initial excitement has died down. As if you can see here, you could have bought SpaceX at below the price that it launched at, and even now, because if you bought it right at the beginning, you probably would have paid more than 150. I think most of the day the stock was hovering between 160 and 170. So you could have bought, you could buy it now at a better price than you could have bought it on day one, with no damage done, and with more probably certainty that the price that you're paying is potentially not overpriced, not overpriced too much. Like, you would have been very unhappy, say, if you bought it over $200 and then it crashed 25% in a matter of a few days. So these are the elements that at the moment crypto is seen a little bit rather from being a momentum bet in terms of investing with the idea that Bitcoin was going to double and going to 150 to 100,000, to almost like a contrarian bet as well. So that now that we are almost like at the end of this kind of bear cycle in Bitcoin, there is obviously the opposite of FOMO, kind of like the rush to get out. The people thinking, oh my God, this thing is crashing, I better get out now. And when the majority of investors actually leave something, it's probably the best time to buy. So we'll go and examine that in a second. But so if we look at Bitcoin here, so we can see at the beginning of the week, we were hovering around the mid 60, so 64, 65, 60, between 64 and 65,000. And then again, like we've seen the drop in the Nasdaq and everything else, Bitcoin was excuse me, was also involved in this, and it actually ended up creating a new low for the year, which has now been established at 58,000, just above. It's 58,000 and 115 on Binance. And since then has now recovered to just above 60,000. So we are now at the 60,000 level. Now, another thing that we need to consider, this is specific to crypto, is that on the 1st of July, so only a few days from now, the MiCA regulation is coming into place. And Binance, which is the biggest exchange, crypto exchange by far in the world, dwarfing the second place by a factor of 3 or 4 times. Binance doesn't have a license yet to operate in the euro area, okay, in the European Union. So what does that mean? So there's no panic at all. So what they said is that they're going to hold services in Europe. Not that anybody that's got like funds in Binance risks anything. So the funds are still going to be there. You can still take them out, transfer them somewhere else without any problem, but they won't be able to service the customers anymore. So to do the things that Binance does, so trading, exchanging tokens, that will not be, you will not be available to do. The only thing you can do is basically withdraw your tokens to another exchange or to your own wallet, you know, for safekeeping. But there is no, so this needs to be done if you still want to use, you know, the exchange in some capacity, you know, to exchange tokens and anything else before the 1st of July. But even after the 1st of July, you can still transfer funds out of Binance without any issue. Just you won't be able to initiate new trades and do new things on Binance. You can just basically just slowly drain the account. But if you wanted to keep your tokens there in the current format for another 2, 3, 4 months, there's no problem with that. But even if that announcement that came later, because they saw in a way that there was a lot of panic selling, and that has increased, you know, the velocity of this down move, you know, which again, in about 3 days, we go from the top here to the bottom, was like an 11% drop. Even now we're sitting at probably from where we started the week. This is where the week started. Still a 5% drop from where the week started. Okay, right now. So this is quite a steep drop for no, you know, no particular strong reason to, you know, to do that in itself. But that, and I think that there's still going to be pressure for a few days at least from all the people that are actually moving funds away from Binance. And many people, to move those funds away, what do? They convert them into stable coin, they convert into their local currency, and they take it out to their bank. Okay, so the action is more connected with crypto at the moment is selling. They won't be buying crypto through Binance in Europe, they'll be selling crypto. So that obviously that puts pressure especially, you know, to all crypto tokens, but in particular Bitcoin. Okay, so again, when we were talking about last week, I said, what can we expect? You know, I'm still of the same opinion that if we look at the probably the biggest reference that we got so far is that what the distance between the top of the previous cycle and the bottom of the next one. If you can see here, let me just make this a little bit bigger, otherwise I can't read things properly. So from the 2018 top to the 2022 bottom, it was a drop of 90. No, sorry, this is not correct. Let me just position it properly, otherwise I will not get proper number. Okay, that looks not right. So we are looking at almost 22% drop where the market hit the bottom and then started growing again. Okay, so we can see here in 2018, 17, 18, we hit a top of come on. The top was like at 19,800 more or less. And then where we hit the bottom on 2020 or 22, you know, that went down to around 16,005. Okay, so a difference of about 21%, 21.8% from the previous market high. Okay, or the previous cycle. Now, if we take that to the current cycle, obviously, then in 2021, the top was at 69,000. Yeah. Okay. And if we look at this kind of like a similar drop during this cycle, at the moment, with this week movement, we are at like at low, we're going to a minus 16% from the previous cycle. If we were to hit a 21.8 drop, as we did the previous time, that would take us down to about 54,000 US dollars per Bitcoin, which is not that far from where we were. So we were at 58,000. As I said to you before, I wouldn't be surprised to see a drop to this level, with a little bit of panic that we've seen this week. So that was the last factor was one, the MiCA regulation, and on the other side of the pond, so to speak, in the US, we are waiting for the Clarity Act to go through the Senate. But now, because there was some problem with the previous bill, a housing bill that Donald Trump has rejected, that can then put pressure onto the timing of the working of the Senate that was expected to pass the Clarity Act probably on the 4th of July. Now that probably will be pushed to after the recess. So we probably will go to then, well after July and go into August and maybe September before that gets approved. So that has good a dampers as well on crypto. So at the moment, kind of like we have all the negative news in a way, so we have the inflation negative news. And by the way, that has hit everything, all the risk assets, including, you might have noticed, this guy here, gold and silver have also dropped considerably this week. Look at gold, it's gone back. They closed on Friday at about 4,150. This week it dropped to below 4,000. Now it's back at about 4,030. So, but again, it's quite a distance from its high of 5,500 that it hit in February, and that's like a drop of 30% on the price of gold. And we're back at the prices that we had at the end of 2025. Okay, so the risk asset drop has been across the board. Okay, not just in crypto. And the other thing there's also on the crypto side, they are contributed to that, is again a sharp sell-off in the Bitcoin ETFs. So we can see here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday seems to be accelerating. Okay, 68 million, 113, 469, almost 700 yesterday. Okay, so that sell-off has increased in a way, accelerated. So on the positive note though, having seen all of this, let me just show you something that can maybe put a and kind of like almost like draw a line on the expectation. Is you can see here, this is the realized price. Okay, so it's putting all the Bitcoins together. Okay, let's make it into a bigger chart. So it's the average price at which every single Bitcoin that's ever been produced and released onto the market, the last time it exchanged hands. Okay, so it's combining those Bitcoins that have never really changed hands ever, like the Satoshi stash, with the Bitcoin that were exchanged yesterday. Now the average of that is at the moment to stand at 53,500. Okay, and historically that is pretty much within a short distance from that. We always met the bottom of a bear cycle. So as you can see now, we're standing at 60,000 with the realized being at 53. It means that under 53.5, most Bitcoin holders will be holding Bitcoin. The average Bitcoin holder will be holding Bitcoin at a loss. Okay, and generally speaking, it's like almost like a line in the sand that price doesn't really move too far from before it starts growing again. So that could, I've always seen this line away almost like a bottom, something like a proxy to the bottom of the bear market. So historically, we probably hit within a 10% range of that line. We normally hit the market bottom. So the answer there, am I you know, that here the question that I get asked by many people is that, you know, should I sell my Bitcoin now, or should I sell my crypto now because everything is being crashing with this? Now, this is the way I see it. If we look at the normal the four-year cycle that Bitcoin follows, we are now getting to the close to the bottom of the cycle. So you can see here the bottom in every cycle was it around around October, November, mid-cycle. Okay, so it's happening in 2018, and again, yeah, in the beginning of 2020, before prices started really climbing strongly again. It happened again in 2022, around October, November time. So we might be going through at the moment what is called like the last rinse of the weekends, which normally happens before like price goes into price discovery again, because then, you know, a lot of the selling pressure will be off the market, because, you know, as you can see here, you know, a lot of the pressure has gone out of the ETF markets. A lot of the Bitcoin miners will have sold their stack, most of the stack of coins, and they wanted to sell. And so as we go on, as the selling pressure kind of like increases, at the same time, we had the lowest level of Bitcoin on exchanges historically. That means that when these Bitcoins are being sold, they're then being taken off the market. They're not staying on the market to be traded. They're being taken off the market for safekeeping. So the ones that are left on exchange, which are the ones that are being bought and sold, are a smaller and smaller number. And we might be getting closer to what is called a critical level, where then if there is like a big buyer coming in and wants to buy some Bitcoin, then that necessarily needs to, you know, push the prices up, because there isn't that much demand, that much supply to absorb like a buying pressure. Okay, so from my point of view, I can see that now we're getting closer to a new market bottom, as indicated by both timing. So here we had like a November 21, again, like towards the end of 2025, we hit the top of this cycle, and then from November 2021, we hit the bottom like about 1 year later, on November 2022. So the same thing could be happening now, just a little bit earlier in terms of timing. Here we are at October. So again, we are kind of likely to see the bottom of this market. If we haven't hit it already, we might see the bottom of this market around maybe September, October time, before it starts going again. But we're not going to be that far away from the current price. Okay, so at the moment, if you're thinking about, okay, I better sell everything because I'm going to buy again when it's lower, that's also a very dangerous game, because it's very difficult to time a market bottom. So how do you know when the prices drop enough for you to go back in? It's a game that you can play if you want, but it is taking a big chance. So this is you can see even on a total market cap. So this is the total crypto market that, you know, a few months ago, like September 2025, was worth 4.2 trillion. Is gone now just above 2 trillion in value. And like this week is really touched just below the 2 trillion in value. So that's, as an investment market, is tiny compared to the stock market, to the bond market, to the derivatives markets. It is a very, very small market for normal assets. In terms of, this is the general crypto, you know, price activity. So the whole market put together. So the Bitcoin and all the thousands of tokens that are available. If we look at the smaller tokens, so the ones that are below the top 10, again, those are very close to hitting a new low for this cycle. So they touched onto a they established a new low in February, and we're still within that range, and we will see. At the moment, the lowest we hit in the new lowest close yesterday. Today probably going to close even lower than that. But it remains probably there's another room here to drop by another maybe 50 or 60 million as we go, as we test this range, where I would expect to see some demand coming in. Okay, because it's like price as a memory as well. And people remember that when they bought crypto, or maybe they missed that chance to buy crypto at this point, then price did this. Okay, went up almost 100% in a matter of a few weeks. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Okay, so there will be people that will be taking a punt here in case that, or even if not completely, even if it's just bounces and it goes up to maybe, I don't know, to this point here, it will still be like a 50% increase from where we are now. So I'm expected to see some demand coming in around this, around this area, which will still be another 10% drop from where we are today. But it could be the area really we have been touching it already. So this is the area that I consider where anywhere along that area demand could be coming in. And so far we have seen it every time we have we tested the 60,000 range. So we were on at 60,000 in Bitcoin terms, in February. We tested it again this week. We go back to the daily, and you can see we tested it again yesterday, where we went down to about 58,000, and now we're back above it. So this is very similar to, in the end, very similar to the chart of Bitcoin. Not that different. Can you see this? Same level, just that it doesn't look as clean in the Bitcoin chart as it does in the altcoin, in the altcoin chart. But still, the charts look very similar. And if we look at the psychological significant level of 60,000, which stands just here. You can see, so it just like every time we've actually tested this level, there has been a pushback. So you can see demand coming in at 58,000 or 59,000. So the lowest close on a daily that we've had was yesterday, or just short about 59.7. So just short of 60,000. So we'll see. At the moment that we've had it for, we've had it in February, we've had it in June, but every time we get a new touch on that line, obviously the other side gets weaker, because there was quite a push here. There was a smaller push beginning of June, and now it remains to be seen. So do we get a push from here as well that takes it to, so there's quite a few bets that Bitcoin will actually grow to the kind of almost touching the 70,000 from here. But then there is also many bets that are protecting themselves against the drop to about 52,000. Okay, so other thing could happen right now. I think we are close to the bottom, but whatever price does, it doesn't mean that's it's the end of crypto or something like this. It's just that price is based on supply and demand, and will do its thing. But on the other side, there is lots of activity going on in the crypto world, and that doesn't change because price goes down. So this is the only news that I had to share with you today. So this is mostly like a fundamental thing, but this is the one that we were talking about. Binance is halting EU services on July the 1st. Okay, so user funds, this is the important thing. User funds remain safe and withdrawals stay open. New services stop. Okay, so if you got funds on there and you got no particular desire to do anything with it, you can leave them there. Nothing happens. Because Binance will try to get a license anyway in the coming months. So you may or may not, but you can always, if you want to move these funds, you can always move the funds to your own wallet or to another exchange, like Kraken, for example, or Coinbase, another exchange that got a license for Europe, that you can use. But in any case, the funds are safe, so there's no need to rush to move them out or to sell them unless you want to use them for trading and for other things that you can do on Binance anymore. So that was, I say, quite a lot of things to consider for this week, and obviously not positive. Let's see what's happening as well today. So we've seen, well, at the moment we got a green candle for Bitcoin, just a little bit. So just a little bit higher than it was at the beginning of the day. Now let's have a look at what the expectation is as well for now the Nasdaq and the other. So the Nasdaq and the S&P. So we were still, let's go in a short term. As you can see, we're still very subdued. This is from the close of yesterday. We closed about 715. We have gone slightly down during the night, in the post-closure session. And now we can pre-market, within pre-market session, we're still down. So we've gone down by a few points, or 5 points compared to last night. S&P 500 pretty much the same. So we closed up here at 733. We now at 730. So the market is still, not quite sure what to make of this. If there is some strong selling coming in at the moment, it hasn't materialized yet. So you see the biggest drop here yesterday was the inflation announcement. So this is quite a drop for the S&P 500 to happen in an hour. Okay, 1.2% in an hour. In the Nasdaq, it looks a little bit larger, like 3%. 3% in an hour. So you can see how the market is just reacting, kind of like a knee-jerk reaction, to the news. And this is what happens. So when the market gets some news that wasn't expecting, then it reprices things almost like immediately. And then the normality happens again, and we'll see. So after we had yesterday's session, which was inconclusive, so it didn't, as you can see, it was still well within the range of this candle. So this is the 1 hour. Sorry, not this one. I don't want to use that one. This is the 1 hour range of the announcement. Okay. But you can see everything that's happened since is still very much contained into this range. He hasn't broken up to the upside. He hasn't broken up to the downside. So basically, the market is still making its mind up. Where do I want to go? Up, down, in between? And generally, we need new. If the market is just going sideways for a period, we need for some other news to come in to push in one way or the other. What do we have in terms of news coming through? Nothing today. As you can see, nothing much today that can move the markets. Next week. Next week we should have the FOMC So we have the non-farm employment change, so the non-farm payrolls basically, which again, it's another indication. Remember, the Fed looks after inflation, looks after the job market. Okay, so any numbers, good numbers on the non-farm payroll could then take the pressure off from the Fed, because if the job market is in trouble, then they will need to intervene by easing the monetary policy. That's what they normally do. So they have that to balance sometimes, the jobs on one side and the inflation on the other. But at the moment, so far I was waiting for kind of like new information to feed through that can inform a move either way in the markets. So as you can see, apart from that, there was no there's not much else. There's some manufacturing data. The manufacturing data coming in. And yeah, not much else during the week. So until we're going through the next Fed meeting will be at the end of July. So is where there might be possibly an increase in interest rate. Is going to be like on the 29th of July. So quite a way away from today. So it's a lot of time for market speculation where small things can move the market a big deal. Interesting enough, sorry, the last thing before I close this presentation is so there has been kind of like a flash crash into a technology shares. Okay, so if you look at the XLK, which is the technology ETF, we can see that this was sorry, what are the deposit? This is okay. So as you can see, like there was quite a strong move as well in the technology shares, but also there's been some good news in terms of reporting, in particular from Micron Technology. Micron Technology, you can see like before there was kind of like where it was expected to announce some bad results. Instead, they announced stellar results. And you can see the effect of it, where they were hitting a new. Going to the daily, so that can make more sense. So look at that. They hit a new high on Monday, and then kind of there was like a sharp drop, almost like 20% drop in expectation of the earning announcement. When the earnings were announced, on kind of like a 20% better than expected, the market then all of a sudden jumped and made a few people very happy with like a 20%, a 20% increase in the space of literally like one day. So, but this is where you need to have a little bit of trust, because the announcement was made after the market close on Wednesday. So where the price was 1,048, and so if you wanted to buy, you had to buy before the announcement, because the first price you had available to yourself on the day after was 1,200, almost like 20% dearer than that, 1,232. That's basically like an announcement that the chip makers and the technology companies, are well and truly printing money right now. So although there might be like a worry that they might be overpriced in the market, they are still keep beating results right, left and center. With a lot of this. So the as a sector is still performing incredibly well. And do I have that? No, okay. I just wonder if I had a screenshot. It's still performing incredibly well. And let me just go for a second to my. So this is the performance for the last year. I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. This is the sector performance over the last 12 months. As you can see, the technology shares have outperformed everything else by quite a distance, by an increase over the last 12 months of 80%. You know, this is for the whole sector on average, not a single stock. Okay, so you didn't have to pick a stock. You could have just like bought a technology ETF and you would have increased by 80%. And the next one is just like about halfway, which is the media. Again, we're talking about modern media. So media here is not, yeah, there's a little bit of your newspaper and magazine, but mostly it's like Google and Facebook and other modern media. So, and this is also, if you want to have a look at how the S&P 500 is structured. So this is the size of these sectors. So if you can see, each blue line is a different sector of the S&P 500. So technology, media, finance, consumer discretionary, and healthcare, and so on. Now, the size of it is how much of the S&P 500 index they represent. But you can see that technology and media, so technology being semiconductors, hardware, software and IT services, and mainly interactive media, represent pretty much half of the S&P 500 index. Okay, so banking and everything else, so we will consider pretty much like traditional businesses, consider, are the other half of the S&P 500. So even the S&P 500 is not as, heavily involved in technology. It still has the majority of these investments in technology shares, really. Okay, so bear in mind that if there is a turnaround in technology shares, it is going to affect the whole index, because it's going to take everything else with it, because the biggest part of the both the Nasdaq even more, even the S&P, which is supposed to be more balanced than the Nasdaq, it's heavily skewed towards the what they call like the FANG, in a way, the Facebook, the Amazon, and so on of this world. Okay, so let me stop sharing. Let me see, do we have anybody wants to raise any questions or share anything? No? As I look at Okay, so if you don't have any questions, guys, we're gonna finish the session early. So if you wanted to ask anything specific about either yourself or your issues that you're facing, or anything in the macro or crypto sectors, then feel free to ask now. Otherwise, we'll adjourn to next week. No? Okay, guys. That's easy. Finish a few minutes early today. So what remains is for me to wish you all a great weekend. I would say keep an eye on activity on Bitcoin. I expect there's going to be a little bit of panic selling still, due to the Binance, the Binance email that went out to all Binance account holders. But hopefully, so far we have seen that the 60,000, whenever we dip below 60,000, at the moment there is demand that comes in. So let's see if that carries on, or if that demands get exhausted, then we'll drop all the way down to the probably low 50s. Okay, so keep strong,
Okay.
keep believing, And yeah,
One thing, Luca.
sure.
So sorry to say this, but there has been a security issue with affecting the Cardano blockchain that I probably should say something about. So if any of you have used Yoroi to create your wallets and have carried out a transaction in the recent term, then chances are there's a security issue with your tokens. It's pretty bad. Basically, Emergo, the founding entity who creates or maintains Yoroi, released a new version of their wallet that is called SecondFi. So I don't know if you've seen that, but essentially, if you've had your wallet upgraded to SecondFi and you've carried out a transaction since, your funds are at risk. So if that affects anybody, I would probably talk to me. We can set up a one-to-one, and there's a safe method of securing your funds. If you haven't done any transactions recently, you haven't used Yoroi or SecondFi in the past few months, then you're okay. But yeah, otherwise, talk to me. There's some good tools out there already for recovering and securing your funds. I personally had a wallet that was affected by this and had some ADA and some Knight tokens stolen. So it's real, and yeah, there is workarounds, but effectively it's a coding error in the cryptography in this new wallet, this new SecondFi wallet that has just the most rookie mistake. So really, really bad. And it's there's a lot of ADA that's been moved. Some more details about it. Effectively, there was like $16 million worth of ADA that was stolen, and then a white hat hacker is working alongside Emergo have stolen another 120 million. Stolen as in removed it from the wallets, the affected wallets, and put it into safe custody. And they're now going to be working on returning that to people. But yeah, either way, it's not a good look. And Emergo, you need to hang their head in shame. So yeah, if you have an issue, talk to me. I'll be on the call for the next hour or two, and we can work through it. But yeah, pretty bad.
Yeah, fantastic. So thank you, Jonathan. I wasn't aware of that actually. So thank you for bringing it to everybody's attention. If you can post your, the link to your session and maybe your contact link if somebody wants to get in touch with you. So at least we know that where to reach you if anybody maybe is watching the recording and has had any add Yoroi in the past. Probably not new members, but some of the old members might have done. New members normally would have interacted with other wallets like with Lace or Eternal, probably. But some of the older ones might have played around with Yoroi. So I'll I would say go and check if you got Cardano tokens and Cardano wallets, go and revisit them and make sure that everything is okay in every case. And if you got any doubts, then get in touch with Jonathan.
Yeah, if you've used a hardware wallet, you're absolutely fine. So don't worry about that. But hot wallets, use Yoroi, your SecondFi recently, then yeah, get in touch.
Okay, yeah, no, unfortunately, we close not on a good note, but thank you anyway for offering that solution for anybody that might be involved with that. That's fantastic. That's what we're here for. And this unfortunately this is a real issues that happen on blockchain. Happen on every single blockchain that you can think of. So it's not unique to Cardano. So it's happened. So Cardano is quite rare for things like this to happen. That has happened many times on Ethereum and on other blockchains, and for some that are, way bigger than this. But still, it's not obviously it's not a good good thing to happen, especially at the moment when everything is so sold off, so to speak.
So depressed.
Yeah, depressed is not a good thing. That
yeah.
we can only do what we can do.
I mean, I must say it wasn't Cardano protocol's fault. There's no problem there. It's just the cryptography used in this one particular wallet. So a software vendor's problem, which is 99% of problems in crypto. But yeah, it's affected Cardano as well now.
Okay, guys. So on this note, like I wish you all a good weekend. Hopefully you haven't been affected by this. If you have, get in touch with Jonathan, and otherwise I'll see you again in a week's time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Luca.
Bye, everyone.